What is going on, everyone? I have a super cool video for you guys today. We had our first track day, my wife and I, me in the 2021 Mach 1, her in the ZL1. I'm gonna give you a complete rundown of my thoughts, my opinions of the Mach 1 after its first track day. So in this video, we're gonna have a couple things. We're gonna have a little bit of talk on prep before the track, what type of event this is, just so you guys are totally clear. I am gonna touch on one of the things a ton of people commented about, which was changing my oil and making sure there was no leaks due to the filter. We're gonna talk about that for a second. And then you're just gonna get multiple laps of commentary of my thoughts, everything from the brakes to coolant temperatures, to the seats, to the transmission, to just traction control, the whole thing. So I think you're really gonna like this video. And then at the end, I'm gonna throw back some footage of another car that I took to the track because I've received some comments and some folks are interested in how this compares to my other cars I've taken on track, most notably a 97 Cobra. So we'll talk about that at the very end, but stay tuned. This is an awesome video. Let me know what you guys think. All right, headed to the track, first track day. I'm pretty excited. I'll try to make this intro kind of short just to kind of let you know what it is exactly that I'm doing, what type of track day it is, what things you guys should know, or you girls should know if you have a Mach 1 and you're getting ready for a track day. So first things first, this is called an amateur track day at my local track here in Utah. This isn't your normal track day in that I'm not going to be doing 10-20 laps consecutively. So what they do is they allow you to come in, you spend $50, and you can either register, turn my turn signal off, you can either register as beginner advanced. I'm going to start with the beginner, so basically it'll allow me to do one lap at a time. Generally speaking, there's somebody else on the track, but they're far enough in front of you that you don't catch them. And just kind of lets you to get a feel for the car. The only downside is you're not doing consecutive laps, so when you finish your lap, you come in, you pull off, and you get back in line. And a lot of times the line's very short, and like it was supposed to rain today, so there might not be hardly anyone at the track, which will be nice. If you're doing a track day and you're curious of what you need to do for your Mach 1 prior to the track day, check out your owner's manual supplement. There's a Mach 1 supplement that does talk about track days, and some of the big things they're going to talk to you about is brake bedding, tire pressures, oil change intervals. Obviously you want to make sure you got the right .4 or higher brake fluid. And one thing that I did do, because I had a lot of people asking me, hey, is your filter going to come loose? When you change the oil, you didn't follow this procedure, this, that, and the other. And look, I went under the car the other day, I checked it, it was rock solid, no drips or leaks or anything. The big thing I want to say about the oil filter situation is, look, the spec calls for a couple things, or the service manual calls for a couple things. One, they say tighten it initially to 44 inch-pounds. 44 inch-pounds is less than 4 foot-pounds. Obviously, no regular 3/8 drive torque wrench is going to go that low. You need an inch-pound torque wrench. And the big thing is that's not very tight at all. I mean, that's just basically snug. If that were a bolt, it would be next to nothing. So they really just want you to get it snug and then give it another 180 degrees. Now, they mentioned to put the filter on dry. I'm going to tell you right now, the way that the filter mounts in the car is at an angle. So you're going to be hard pressed to not have any sort of oil on that mating surface. Meaning, even if you don't oil the filter, right? Even if you don't oil the filter, when you thread it on, it's going to get some oil on it. I don't know if that's on purpose. It would be very difficult to wipe it so perfectly clean and very quickly thread it on so you don't get any oil. I think the big thing here, guys, is that they don't want you to put it on too loose. So one thing I always like to do when I get here is to just take a look at the track and kind of get a feel for it. A lot of times you can get a track map or look online. I think it's really helpful to really focus on that map, I should say, and just try to understand the track in your head. It's a lot different than playing a video game. Oh, check this out. That thing's pretty sweet. So yeah, you can see the guys coming off track right now. So they've just done a lap, and they're coming off the track and they're getting back in line over here. And then I'll flip the camera around so you can see them taking off and racing. Okay, so I think this is the advanced session because they are not pitting. All right, I lied, that guy's pitting. But I've watched the other folks come around and they're continuing to do laps, which we won't do. That'll be the big difference. We'll basically exit off of here like this guy did. But yeah, let me see if I can find a guy coming around the front straight. This is one of my first laps here. You'll see me, I'll do a couple different camera angles so you can get a few different views. We also do some lead follow with my wife's ZL1. I'll try to let you hear the motor, but also give you some commentary as we go along and just kind of my overall thoughts of my first time tracking the Mach 1. So I think this view is as good as any. I have the base seats in this car. Now I've had the Recaro seats in previous cars. So I had a 2013 5.0 track pack with the Recaro seats. I opted for the base seats in this because I felt like the base seats were a massive improvement over the older Mustang, and I think that's totally true. Now I haven't driven a Mach 1 on track with Recaros, but as you can see here, these seats do a good job of holding me in place. I'm not having to like prop myself up super hard between the door and the inside of the dash there to keep me from sliding around. They do a really good job, and you retain the heated and cooled feature. So I'll leave that one up to you, but I can say that these seats do honestly work very well on the track. I did ultimately try driving in a few different modes. I believe I tried both sport and track. The big difference in track mode is I think it gives you a little more wiggle room with stability control and traction control. Both are fine. One thing I do notice is if you're driving around the street and you have the car in track mode, the throttle response is very lazy in the lower RPM ranges, but I think it's tailored to the upper RPM ranges versus if you're driving in sport mode and you're leaving the pits, the car feels faster. But then once you get on track and you're going at speed, it's no longer a big deal because you're pretty much living between the 5,000 and 7,500 RPM red line the whole time anyway. So I would say, maybe try it once in sport mode and then see how you feel, and then transition to track mode and just leave it in track mode for the rest of your session. Speaking of traction control, the last time I was on this track was in my 97 Cobra, which does not have traction control. This car does, and with the added power, it is very nice. The traction control is excellent. It does not let you get yourself in trouble, even in track mode. That being said, if you're an experienced driver, I would maybe argue that if you wanted to be able to position the car better mid-turn, kind of get some rotation happening, some trail braking, you might have to turn everything off because, like I said, it's really trying to keep you straight and planted. But I can't say enough things. I mean, anybody can get in this car and drive it. The other nice thing is the rev matching. I tried initially driving, with the rev matching turned off and doing my own heel-toe downshifts. But ultimately, honestly, I turned it back on because I was faster. This is my first time out in the car, so I think I'm gonna leave that on for the next session or two, and then as I get better, try and turn it off. But that's a fun feature to have, and it really allows you to focus on driving. Here's a perfect example. I'm about to screw up right here. I hit the rumble strips. You can see me putting a thumbs down. But again, I overshot that turn. I came in too fast, got back on the gas. Traction control really kept me safe. For this not being a handling package car, it does really well. The Michelin Pilot Sport 4S tires are great. I never felt out of control. I will say one potential negative thing was I wish the brakes felt better. They certainly got me slowed down and stopped, but in terms of inspiring confidence, I don't know, maybe it's just the first time they need to get bedded in better, but I felt like they could have performed better. Okay, this is later on. I'm following Kelly out onto the track. Yeah, I've got no chance of keeping up with that LT4 on the straights, but I will say I had a bit better tire than she did on her car. She doesn't have the original, I don't know what tires come on the ZL1, but they're not Nittos. So she's got a set of Nitto moderate summer tires on there, which I do not think were working to her advantage, but it was a ton of fun to be able to follow her on the track and just see how the cars compare. So I'd love to hop in her car and have her in mine. Maybe we'll do that next time out so we can both kind of get some commentary back and forth on how we feel about the performance, the braking, the handling, all that stuff between the two cars. I will say, just from driving her car around the street versus the Mach 1, even though both are not the handling pack, you know, hers is not the ZL1 1LE, mine is not the handling package, her car feels a lot more track inspired. You know, like even on the street, it's a little bit harsher, it's a little bit crisper. Mine feels a bit more like a Grand Touring sort of car. So it'd be interesting to flip flop and see how it feels in the ZL1 versus the Mach 1. I do want to touch on some of the engine temperatures that I was seeing. So, you know, you set up your gauges. The one thing I wish you could look at was oil temperature, and forgive me if that is an option, maybe I just omitted it, but let's talk about coolant temps for a second. So the hottest coolant temps I would see is after I pulled off the track and was idling after a run. So in those cases, I would see the coolant temperatures get up to around 215, maybe somewhere between 213 and 217. However, conversely, when I was on the track, obviously, you know, generally you're focused on driving, but sometimes in the long straights, I would glance down, coolant temps would drop all the way down to 195. So as long as you're driving the car and you're getting that nice airflow coming through the radiator and through all your heat exchangers, things run pretty cool. I didn't see any alarms, nothing came on that would show me that I was running too hot at any point in time. The one thing that I did notice that alarmed me a little bit was that I did not do the whole bedding procedure on the brakes, which in hindsight I probably should have done. I thought because this was a quicker track day that, you know, I didn't need to do that, but I did notice I was getting some good smoke coming off the brakes. So much so at one point that I pulled over after a lap and just made sure nothing was on fire. So I put a ton of heat into those brakes, but again, they never failed me, and I think they just needed to get bedded in, and now they're probably fine. Let's touch on the transmission too while we're here. So I love this Tremec transmission in the Mach 1. There are no issues with, you know, you're winding it out, you're trying to shift quickly into the next gear. There's no lockouts, there's no notchiness that I notice. I will say the shifter probably isn't as smooth through the gates as the TR6060 in the ZL1, but you know, overall it is a fantastic transmission. It's exactly what you want for a track car. I like the ratios better. This one, remember, fifth gear is 1-to-1. So on this track, for the most part, you're in third gear. You may drop down to second in one of the sharp turns. You get up into fourth for a bit. So, you know, fourth gear where you're at, you're over 100 miles an hour before dropping down in a second, and no issues dropping down through the gears. Really fun ratios for both a track car and a street car. I highly recommend, if you were getting a Mach 1, get the manual. Save the manuals, guys. Come on. I know the 10-speed's great. I know it's probably a better overall transmission for max performance, but come on. This is supposed to be a track car, and a track car needs a proper 3-pedal manual. Okay, let's just get some feelers out there. I don't know if you guys are interested. I did receive some comments, but let me know in the comments what you think. We're gonna do some quick commentary real fast, just kind of fun, since I had both cars on the same track. So I'm gonna throw up some footage of my 97 Cobra. Basically, all you need to know, I bought that car for less than $4,000. It was set up as a drag car initially, and I put in around $7,000 into that car, $6,500 to $7,000. Specifically focused on tires, brakes, suspension. I basically went through the Maximum Motorsports catalog, spoke with them, and tried to set it up for a track day. So, you know, that's a 4.6 4-valve. This is a 5.0 4-valve. You know, they make a lot. You know, I probably made 305 horsepower. This is 480, so very different. That has no traction control. This does. But what are they like? You know, maybe you want to get into a track car, but you don't have the money to buy a brand new 5.0 or a Mach 1 or a ZL1, and you just want something cheap. Can you do it with an old car? The answer is yes. So just check it out real quick. Let me know what you think. And if I get a lot of good feedback, I'll do a full-on comparison video between the two. Just a super fast rundown of what this car was. This is a 97 Cobra, so this is the 4.6 4-valve motor, which is the more racy inspired of the mod motors before they went to the 3-valve and then later the Coyote. So this would have came stock with about 305 horsepower. Redlined, I want to say 7,000. Definitely does not pull as hard for sure. This is, you know, a lot. This is probably 175 less horsepower, but no traction control, very raw, and something you can get inexpensively. So I went to Maximum Motorsports, spoke with them, really focused on nothing to make the car faster in a straight line, but how to make it handle well. So subframe connectors, I had stickier tires, I had upgraded rotors, I had track brake pads, .4 fluid. I did, I did a panhard bar on this. I did Coney shocks. I did lowering springs, sway bars, different bushings front and rear. So this thing was kind of set up for the track, but obviously you could daily drive it too, and it was a ton of fun. Now, this is a different course, so if it looks like I'm going faster, it's because I'm on the east track and all the footage you saw previously was on the west track, but this was a ton of fun. So if you guys are interested, maybe you want to get into track days, but you don't want to buy a totally new car, you want to know, hey, are these old things reliable? Can I do this? You know, what's it like? Let me know, and I can do a comparison. I can really compare the two and kind of let you know, what it's like new versus old, things you would have to do in an old car that you wouldn't have to do to a new car, those general type of things. So let me know in the comments if this is something that interests you, because I do have more footage. If you like the 97 Cobra, I already have a ton of videos of me building this thing up. So if you saw this and you're like, man, I want that car, go back and just watch my videos and you can see exactly how I build it. All right, that about does it for this video. So overall, what are my thoughts? I think it's a great car on track. There's nothing like when I took the Cobra out the first time, I immediately knew there was things that I needed to do differently. On this, there's really nothing. The only thing I will say is if you were going to make this a serious track car, for sure you want to dump that stock .3 brake fluid for some .4, and you may want to look at probably not rotors, but potentially a little bit grabbier pads. Like I said, it slowed me down, but it was something that maybe a little bit more initial bite I would have appreciated. I kind of think that the ZL1 has better brakes, but I'm not 100% sure. That's the only thing, but that's really minor. And honestly, if you're gonna be doing track days, you're gonna be going through a lot of brakes and tires quickly. You know, a proper track car like any of these, that's really all you should need. So very, very, very minor. But overall, fantastic outing. There will be more track days. I wanna go back out another time. I'd like to get in the car with an instructor to kind of improve upon some of the errors that I'm probably making. But I'd love to drive this. I'd love to drive the ZL1 and kind of flip-flop and give you commentary on both. That'll be a ton of fun. I also want to get out there roll racing. I want to roll race these two. I want to drag race these two. So more racing to come. We're looking for some updates for the garage here in the near future. So there may be a pause on the car projects. I'd really like to put a lift in here. So we'll see where that goes. But I really appreciate you guys watching it. If you've made it this far in the video, I thank you so much. Please, again, do not forget to like and subscribe. I will try to have new footage up every week or two, every week if I can. So thanks for watching and see you next time on Truck and Roll.